I think the 200 to 250,000 for Bitcoin still makes sense because that would still only value it at 25% of the size of the gold market. So I think digital gold means Bitcoin should be worth over $1 million per Bitcoin, and it could happen in the next few years. But maybe pricing 25% of that, especially with Genius Act, makes sense. I mean, in a sense, stablecoins are the ChatGPT moment for crypto because businesses like it and consumers are adopting it. And now we see JP Morgan and Citi and getting into the stablecoin market, and the Genius Act, of course.
How would you play that?
Well, Circle is one way because it is a standout company. They've done really well. But Ethereum is really the way to play stablecoins because the majority of stablecoins are created on Ethereum. It's over 30% of its network fees. And if Scott Bessent's right in it, he says now it's close to a $4 trillion market. That's exponential growth.
As investors gear up for a bullish July and August, Raoul Pal and Tom Lee predict that Bitcoin and crypto prices are about to surge dramatically, hitting new all-time highs. With momentum building, institutional players are quietly positioning themselves for the next big move. Pal and Lee emphasize that a major shift is on the horizon. Bitcoin currently sits just above $117,300, up more than 14% in the past month. With the next bull market approaching, and crypto alongside technology emerging as top investments this year, both experts remain strongly bullish on digital asset. They provide a portfolio update, highlighting which crypto assets are primed for significant growth as major pension funds and institutional investors enter the market. Raoul Pal projects crypto to become a $10 trillion digital asset class. He believes this cycle will stand apart from previous ones, driven by devalued fiat currencies pushing broader adoption and unprecedented capital inflows. Now, let's dive into the interview with Raoul Pal and Tom Lee as they share their market predictions for the coming days and week. Still paying taxes on your crypto gains? What if you didn't have to? With ITrust Capital, you can buy and sell crypto inside a tax-advantaged IRA, giving you a smarter way to grow your portfolio without worrying about capital gains tax. That's why they're the #1 crypto IRA platform in America, with billions in tax-advantaged transactions. There are multiple ways to fund your account. You can make a contribution, transfer an existing IRA, or roll over an old 401k or employer plan. You'll get access to a wide range of digital assets, low fees, and 24/7 trading, all backed by secure, one-to-one asset ownership with institutional-grade custody. And if you have questions, ITrust Capital offers 100% US-based customer support with real people ready to help. Click the link, use code DOSE7, and get your $100 funding bonus today. Start building your crypto wealth, tax-advantaged, with ITrust Capital.
The ones that outperform the debasement of currency of other central banks are actually two. One is technology, and the other is crypto. My whole big thesis has been the only way to capture returns in this world of indebted economies with aging populations is to find the assets that are in a secular trend. And there's actually not that many. In fact, the ones that are really in a secular trend, part of what I refer to as the exponential age. So this is something that is going to be the fastest pace of change of technology and probably the fabric of society and how economies are structured in all of humanity in the shortest period of time. The exponential age is that moment when multiple technologies that were all enabled essentially by the internet all layer on top of each other and go to mass adoption phase all at the same time. Crypto was the first of these technologies. If you also think that mobile phone was the other technology that built on top of the internet and fiber optic cables, that led to the rise of crypto. Crypto got to 400 million users in record time versus any other technology in history. So that was the fastest adoption of any technology the world had ever seen. And luckily, because of the way crypto is built from the ground up, you get to participate in that network adoption by owning parts of those networks, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, whatever it may be. But also at the same time, there were a number of other technologies. I first wrote about this in, I can't remember, it was I think maybe March or April. And I said, well, what is coming is AI, robotics, space, Internet of Things, genetic sciences, distributed computing, quantum computing, and all of these things. And over the next 10 years, all of these things are going to experience Metcalfe's law roughly at the same time. Some will be later, like quantum. I didn't know what was going to come first. EV is another one. And when you put Metcalfe's laws that are all intermingled with each other, because they all build on top of each other, you get something called Reed's law. Reed's law is essentially Metcalfe's law squared. If Metcalfe's law you need a logarithmic chart for, Reed's law is preposterous because it makes logarithmic charts look like linear charts. So I actually asked ChatGPT this the other day. I said, is there any examples in human history of Reed's law? And nothing in technology has that ever happened before. It's actually only happened in biology. So this is something that is going to be the fastest pace of change of technology and probably the fabric of society and how economies are structured in all of humanity in the shortest period of time. And, you know, we've seen that. I think people are starting to get their heads around it once you saw AI explode onto the scene in the fastest adoption of any technology ever. It got to 100 million users in 5 weeks. And by the time Microsoft roll it out across all of their Office suite of products, et cetera, it'll be 1 billion users kind of by Q1 next year. It's an extraordinary change. And then the technology itself is exponential in its improvements. And so within that, we're also seeing robotics starting to go exponential. We're seeing Amazon hiring more robots as productive economic units than they are hiring humans now. We're seeing all across the world changes. We're seeing EV cars outselling traditional cars. We're seeing a huge amount of capital pouring into changing sources of energy. So we're in this extraordinary period of change. It's the most exciting period in human history. We're kind of lucky to be alive, but it's also terrifying.
Raoul says this is the fastest adoption rate of any investable asset in human history. By the end of 2025, there will be 1.1 billion active crypto wallets worldwide. The speed of this growth is staggering, marking the quickest wealth accumulation we've ever witnessed. This conclusion comes from a career's worth of research, with every chart and study pointing to the same outcome. Liquidity drives everything, and crypto is set to be the best-performing asset class. Raoul has been emphasizing to investors for months that all the key factors are now coming together. He predicts we're entering a phase defined by parabolic upward moves in crypto prices, an exciting time where the market is poised for explosive growth.
And what makes it more exciting is we are in both macro spring and crypto spring. Well, macro spring only on the forward-looking indicators where we might get final week GDP numbers into this quarter and next quarter, but the forward-looking stuff says we're going to come through the other side sooner rather than later. While inflation, etc., still keeps declining and unemployment probably ticks up. But crypto markets are forward-looking, much like technology stocks are, because these are secular trends and they're long-term growth stories. And those markets bottomed with global liquidity back in last year. ETH was first in June 2022, followed by much of the rest of the larger crypto tokens, although some are still relatively weak today. That period from then on is what's referred to as crypto spring. It's kind of a choppy period, but you tend to get decent price rises when you look back and you think, God, that was a painful year. But then you look back and you're like, wow, okay. And we see that. Bitcoin's up over 100% in crypto spring. Solana's up 220%. ETH's up about 50%. So it's been pretty positive. And the forward-looking indicators of liquidity, which is the key driver of all of this, are all pointing up. That as the Fed back off rate rises, the ECB back off rate rises, the next phase we're starting to see China has started stimulating again. We will likely see the Japanese do something in terms of yield curve control or weakening the yen. The Europeans have made it pretty clear that they've stopped raising rates now. The Bank of England have stopped raising rates, and I think the Fed have stopped raising rates. So the probabilistic outcome is by next year, the rates start coming down again as inflation starts coming down and the forward-looking inflation indicators are coming down. So what you've got is a backdrop for crypto to do really well, which coincides with the Bitcoin halving, which coincides with the macro cycle, the everything code, where everybody reset interest rates in 2008 at 0%. They kind of meant that nobody had to pay their interest payments. And then what we've had, everybody reset their debts between 3 and 5 years, every major government, and that rolling of debts every 4 years coincides with the Bitcoin halving, is the global economic cycle. It corresponds with the ISM, it corresponds with crypto price action, corresponds with equity price action, all of these things. It's also the same as the election cycle. They're all one big cycle now. And we're at the point in the cycle where assets tend to do really well. So I'm very excited on a forward-looking basis, and I have been excited and been very long crypto all year, and tech. Tech's had an amazing year. Our exponential age basket from global macro investors up 50% this year as well. So technology's had a really stunningly good year. I still think it ends the rest of the year stronger, that this has just been a corrective, cheeky 10% correction, shake out the weak holders as we move forward as liquidity rises. So I'm looking forward to a real exponential age 2 years ahead, 2024, 2025, where we see both technology stocks and we see crypto really doing well. And crypto is usually the fastest horse in the race. It's more volatile, it has larger downside, but it has much larger upside.
Raoul Pal emphasizes that the current market pattern is normal and necessary. It helps flush out weak hands and reset leverage. He points out Bitcoin's strong correlation with global liquidity, which continues to provide support even during short liquidity crunches. Pal believes the market is gearing up for another powerful upward move. Bitwise CIO Matt Hergen shares this outlook, highlighting a dip-then-rip pattern where sharp pullbacks historically precede massive rallies, sometimes reaching gains of up to 190%. Both stress that patience, not panic, is crucial, describing the so-called banana zone as alive but often misunderstood. As momentum in the crypto market builds and institutions quietly position themselves, Raoul Pal predicts a major shift is imminent. He's making significant bets in his portfolio ahead of the next bull market, staying bullish on digital assets after substantially increasing his holdings during the last bear market. Pal, a former Goldman Sachs executive, identifies key crypto assets with the most upside potential in the months ahead, expecting massive capital inflows driven by major pension funds and institutional investors. He forecasts crypto becoming a $10 trillion digital asset class, with this cycle standing apart due to devalued fiat currencies pushing broader adoption and unprecedented capital into the market. Bitcoin, in particular, is poised for an unprecedented price milestone amid this surge. Pal also addressed current economic uncertainties, tariffs, recession fears, and market volatility, but remains optimistic about a major rally on the horizon, where Bitcoin could play a central role. Lately, Bitcoin has been trading more like a risk asset, meaning it tends to rise alongside a recovering market. However, if markets remain stuck in uncertainty, Bitcoin could face short-term pressure. A sharp recovery could happen soon, possibly within the next week, making Bitcoin's next big move dependent on how these economic conditions unfold.